Okay, so if you look at the streets of Bangladesh, you'll see a revolution happening right before your eyes. It's powered by millions of these electric rickshaws. They're a total lifeline, right? Providing transport, creating jobs. But here's the thing. This amazing homegrown innovation, it's hiding a really dark, toxic secret, and it's poisoning an entire nation.
And get this, in early 2024, a top official actually called them the Tesla of Bangladesh. High praise, right? Well, just a few months later, another minister ordered them banned from the capital city. I mean, talk about mixed signals. This isn't just some simple contradiction, though. It's a huge symptom of a much, much deeper crisis that we're going to unpack right now.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. You've got this central paradox. On one hand, these e-rickshaws are an absolutely essential engine for the economy. But on the other hand, they're almost completely illegal. They're operating in this total regulatory vacuum. And that conflict, well, that's where this entire crisis comes from.
So, just how many are we talking about? Well, the scale is honestly hard to wrap your head around. Because they're all unregistered, nobody knows the exact number. Seriously. Estimates put it somewhere between 3 and maybe as high as 7 million of these things. This massive, informal fleet has become the literal backbone of local transport, especially once you get outside the big cities.
So you might be thinking, why not just ban them? Well, this is exactly why that's failed, over and over again. The industry employs millions of people, drivers, mechanics, you name it. It could be contributing as much as 6% to the entire national GDP. And on top of that, the drivers' associations, they're super powerful at the local level. You see, you can't just wish this industry away.
Now, here's the really crucial part. This whole situation, it's not some accident. The country's official policy for electric vehicles, it deliberately, explicitly leaves e-rickshaws out. Think about that. The country's largest electric fleet is completely cut off from any kind of support, any safety standards, any path to becoming better or safer. It was a deliberate policy choice, and as we're about to see, the results have been absolutely devastating.
Right. So this paralysis, this inaction, it's unleashed a massive and mostly hidden public health crisis. And let's be clear, this goes way beyond just an environmental issue. It's a full-blown national emergency. The main threat here is lead poisoning, and we really need to understand this part. Its effects, especially on a child's developing brain, are permanent. There is no going back. There is no safe level of lead exposure. The damage that's done can never, ever be undone. The human cost here is just staggering. Okay, get this. An estimated 36 million children in Bangladesh are believed to have damaging levels of lead in their blood. Let that sink in. 36 million. That's about 60% of all the children in the entire country. And the impact? It's just heartbreaking. Researchers now estimate that lead exposure is the cause behind a mind-boggling 70% of all cases of developmental intellectual disability in Bangladeshi children. I mean, we're talking about robbing an entire generation of its future, of its full potential. And if the human cost isn't enough, the economic toll is just as catastrophic. The World Bank did the math. The lost productivity from lead's impact on kids' brains, it costs the country up to $28.6 billion every single year. To put that in perspective, that's as much as 9% of the country's entire GDP. It's a profound act of economic self-harm.
So how on earth did we get here? How does a simple form of transportation become a source of poison for a nation? Well, the answer is in this perfectly closed, kind of perverse economic loop, a system that has somehow made mass poisoning incredibly profitable. Okay, so the problem really starts with the batteries. See, to keep the costs as low as possible, almost all of these e-rickshaws run on cheap, uncertified lead-acid batteries. And here's the catch. They have a ridiculously short lifespan. We're talking just 6 to 11 months. And that, right there, creates this constant, massive river of hazardous waste.
So when those millions upon millions of batteries die, where do they all go? Well, a huge chunk, up to 70%, maybe even more, ends up in the illegal, informal recycling sector. Think, backyard smelters. And these are the operations that are doing the poisoning.
And this is what creates this terrible, self-perpetuating cycle. It goes like this. There's a huge demand for cheap transport, right? So that leads to the use of cheap, short-lived batteries. That creates a mountain of toxic waste. That waste then gets recycled illegally, often in open-air pits, poisoning whole communities. And then, that cheap recycled lead is used to make more cheap batteries, and the whole vicious cycle starts all over again. So why is this illegal industry thriving? Why doesn't it stop? Honestly, it's just simple economics. The profits you can make from dodging taxes and ignoring environmental rules are sky high. Meanwhile, the penalties, if you get caught, they're laughably small. There's just no financial incentive to follow the law.
Okay, so after years of failed attempts and policy paralysis, there are finally signs of a real strategy starting to emerge. So let's shift gears and look at the new, multi-pronged approach that's aiming to finally break this destructive cycle for good.
The big shift is this. The government is finally pivoting from just trying to ban these things to actually regulating them. There's a new draft policy on the table, and its goal is to formalize the entire sector for the very first time. We're talking mandatory vehicle registration, driver licenses, certified safety standards for parts, the whole shebang. This could be a total game changer.
And buried inside this new regulatory push is a hard deadline, a line in the sand. After December 31st, 2025, the use of these old lead-acid batteries will be banned. Period. This is a direct order, basically, to force a massive technological shift away from lead.
So what's the replacement? Well, the obvious choice is lithium-ion. It's just a far superior technology in every way. It can last up to 5 times longer, it's about 30% more energy efficient, and, this is the most important part, it contains zero lead. But, and this is a huge but, there's one massive catch. The upfront cost is way, way higher.
And honestly, this is the single biggest hurdle that any real solution has to clear. For millions of low-income drivers, the price of a new lithium-ion battery is, as one report put it, prohibitively expensive. You just can't force the switch without having a smart plan to deal with this cost. It would be doomed to fail.
Thankfully, people are coming up with some really creative ways to solve this money problem. Sure, you've got policy fixes like cutting import taxes on the good batteries, but the real innovation is happening in new business models. Things like battery as a service, where drivers don't have to buy the expensive battery at all. They just pay a small fee to swap out a dead one for a fresh one. Or another cool idea, repurposing second-life batteries from old electric cars, which still have plenty of juice for a rickshaw.
Which brings us right back to our final question. Look, Bangladesh has this homegrown problem that spiraled into a national crisis. But it also has the potential for a truly homegrown solution. The path forward seems clear, but it's not going to be easy. The real question is, can these new policies and smart technologies actually come together to transform this crisis into a safer, more sustainable future for everyone? The health of a nation and an entire generation really depends on the answer.